their quality of life and their physical and psychological health. Over the last 2 years during COVID, New Yorkers spent so much time at home, and they found the nerve-wracking, all of the low-flying helicopters swooping over their open space and their buildings. We're seeing a number of people joyriding, shaving time off their commute to the airport, at steep expense to the vast majority of New Yorkers. There's absolutely no margin for error. If there is a crash in the most densely populated city, you know there's going to be fatality. So it's a safety concern too. I want to thank my colleagues for being here. I have a one-pager that goes into great detail in the bill. It's on my website. If you're interested, I can go over that later. It's now my honor to introduce one of my great friends in Congress, Nydia Velazquez. We went to the city council together, did the Congress together, and we have been unfortunately working for years together on this issue. Nydia Velazquez.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Carolyn, Maloney, thank you for the leadership, as well as Jerry Nadler and all the elected officials that are here, and our constituents, our community. You are the reason why we are here, because you deserve. You know, when we talk about quality of life issues, this is one of them. This noise caused by these helicopters is just totally unacceptable. And the message to FAA and the governor and the mayor is, we're not going away. We're going to be here today, tomorrow. But collectively, we need to seek a solution to this long problem. Since 1982, there has been at least 30 helicopter crashes in New York City. 25 people have lost their lives. So what are we waiting for? For the next accident to happen? And then what is our answer to this? We gotta show that even though there is no one responsible for this type of regulations that are necessary, that we need to look for a solution. And you know, Carolyn mentioned that her constituents. Well, I am a victim of helicopter noise. I live in Redwood, and it's just unbelievable. If I could get up or wake up at least at 7 o'clock on a Saturday or something, it's not going to happen because of the noise of this helicopter. So I want to thank Carolyn Maloney for introducing this bill. As she mentioned, FAA doesn't like our previous legislation, and this commission will bring all the stakeholders together to see what kind of avenue, what kind of mechanism we can come up collectively to address this issue once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership, Nydia. Our leader on the state level is Senator Brad Hoylman.
Thank you. Thank you, State Senator Brad Hoylman. Really glad to be here. I represent parts of the west side and east side of Manhattan, both of which are inundated with chopper noise. Let me just first call out Stop the Chop for all the work they've been doing. There's a honk of applause. both in New York and New Jersey, helping to raise this issue and advocate at every level of government. Congresswoman, both of you, along with Congressman Nadler, have done incredible work. And this new bill, I have such great hope because you have the buy-in from federal authorities. And that's a huge leap forward for this effort. This is a federal, state, and city effort. At the city level, of course, Gale Brewer has introduced legislation to ban EDC from hosting choppers from tourist flights. And at the state level, I'm proud to say that Assemblymember Gottfried and I have legislation that is poised to move during the next 9 days of the legislative session that is going to create a civil liability for tourist shoppers that can be enforced both by the New York State Attorney General Tish James and everyday New Yorkers. So with our bill, you'll be able to take tourist shoppers to court and sue them. So I hope we can get that legislation moving. I'm so proud of our federal legislators keeping this issue alive in Washington. We need a federal solution, and thank you for providing us on that. Thank you.
Congratulations on your movement forward, and representing the Assembly is Assemblymember Gottfried, who's been a leader on this.
Thank you, Carolyn. You know, we've been fighting on this issue for literally decades. And it's taking this long because the interests, the economic interests that are invested in helicopter traffic are pretty powerful people, as well as the complications of federal law and their supremacy in this area. And in my district, the biggest helicopter issue is the heliport in Hudson River Park that we're trying to get rid of. Because the heliport really, I don't know if it belongs anywhere in New York City. It certainly does not belong in a public park like Hudson River Park. I really want to commend Carolyn Maloney and Nydia Velazquez and Jerrold Nadler for their persistence on this issue and finally getting to a proposal that the FAA will support. That creating a commission is not what we came to the table wanting to do. We want to get rid of the helicopter noise in the city, but creating a commission that with the government's support can create guidelines and standards, I believe it's really going to make a difference. So thank you to Carolyn and Nydia and Jerry for moving this issue forward. Thank you to Stop the Chop for their work. We've got to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nydia and I represent both Manhattan and Brooklyn. It is just as much of a problem in Brooklyn, probably in the Bronx and Queens too. And representing Brooklyn is Councilmember Lincoln Ressler.
Thanks. My name is Lincoln Ressler. I'm the council member over the waterfront in Brooklyn. And I will tell you, helicopter noise is one of the complaints that our office receives the most. The constant, awful nuisance of the extreme noise that is generated by helicopters flying low over the Brooklyn waterfront. It makes an afternoon in the park unbearable. It makes an evening in your backyard unpleasant. It ruins the night on the stoop. And we need to do something about it. And I'm so appreciative of activists from Stop the Chop, and especially our federal leadership, Congressman Maloney, Congressmember Velazquez, Congressmember Nadler, State Senator Hoylman, and Assemblymember Gottfried for leading the effort over at Hudson River State Park. Gale, Brewer, Councilmember, and I are pushing to eliminate all non-essential helicopter travel from our city EDC heliports here at 34th Street in Lower Manhattan. But ultimately, this is a federal issue because much of the helicopter noise that we all deal with comes from across the river in New Jersey. And that's why the leadership of our members of Congress is so important. And their leadership in bringing the FAA to the table and getting cooperation so that we can dramatically reduce this unnecessary, absolutely unpleasant helicopter nuisance is critically important. And there's just no reason, in my opinion, that we should have wealthy individuals flying out to the Hamptons low down over both the neighborhoods. There's just no reason that we should have tourists ruining our evenings. We can stop it, and thanks to the leadership of our members of Congress, I'm confident that we will. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to have Melissa Elstein from Stop the Chop make her remarks first, and then I'll make some more, and anybody else who wants to.
Good morning. My name is Melissa Elstein, and I'm on the boards of two grassroots, all-volunteer nonprofits, the West 80s Neighborhood Association and Stop the Chop NYNJ. First, I want to thank Congress members Maloney, Nadler, and Velazquez for their continued leadership on the helicopter problem over New York City, and for inviting me and Stop the Chop to speak today in support of their new federal bill. I also want to thank our local electeds, New York State Senator Hoylman and Assemblymember Gottfried, Manhattan Borough President Levine, and Upper sightseeing helicopters from flying over the New York metropolitan area. Towards that end, we have supported the Maloney, Nadler, Velazquez Improving Helicopter Safety Bill, HR 4880, now 1643, additionally co-sponsored by Congress members AOC, Bowman, Clark, Meng, Series, and Swazi. With the introduction of this additional federal bill aimed at substantially reducing the non-essential helicopters over New York City, it sends a message to the noisy and polluting and harmful helicopter industry that the status quo must and shall end. People are suffering due to the excessive and constant noise pollution created by unnecessary tourist sightseeing photography jaunts over homes, parks, streets, and waterways. And lest we point the finger only at the horrific doors-off shoe selfie flights emanating from New Jersey, note that 30,000 sightseeing flights operate from New York City's very own downtown Manhattan Heliport. That's 60,000 annual takeoff and landings. These sightseeing tours, as well as the commuter flights, have turned the New York Harbor and the Hudson River into loud helicopter highways. And of course, sadly, that describes our public parks as well. And by the way, the West 30th Street Heliport is, as Assemblyman Gottfried mentioned, within a park, also right near the bike lane, the High Line, and Little Island to make things worse. This charter and commuter helicopter rides to the airports and Hamptons are all fossil fuel-based choppers. They're spreading their misery from Manhattan's commuter heliports to Queens and Brooklyn as well, including over numerous environmental justice communities, just so the privileged few can shave commuting time off their travel schedule, with no consideration of the harm to the environment, air quality, health, safety, and quality of life of all of us who are unfortunately helicopter flyover victims. We use the same word, Congressman Velazquez. To end this helicopter hell over New York City, we urge Congress to pass strong legislation such as HR 1643, HR 389, the Safe and Quiet Skies Act, and the Helicopter Safety Noise Management Act introduced today in order to protect New Yorkers and visitors as well as the environment. We hope and believe that Stop the Chop NYNJ should be one of the 3 community members represented on the commission in this bill. Additionally, we urge the National Park Service and the FAA to ban helicopter sightseeing tours over our national parks, including but not limited to the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. We also urge Governor Hochul, the New York State Legislature, the Hudson River Park Trust, and or the Port Authority to close the West 30th Street Heliport. Heliports and helicopters do not belong in New York City parks, nor on the Hudson River on floating barges. Finally, we urge Mayor Adams and the New York City Council to close the New York City heliports to non-essential helicopters. To those naysayers who say that cannot be done, there's precedent. The Pan Am Building Heliport was shuttered in 1977, and Mayor Giuliani completely closed the East 60th Street Heliport in 1999. To those who say electric helicopters are coming soon, great. Well, until then, ban the fossil fuel-based choppers. Some are still even using leaded gas. And finally, to those who say a non-essential chopper ban harms the economy, well, we heard those same arguments regarding the fights, which we won, to ban plastic shopping bags, fracking upstate, smoking in restaurants and bars. Instead of supporting a polluting, harmful niche industry, let's support improvements to public transportation, such as high-speed rail, sightseeing for our local observation decks, the Times Square virtual helicopter experience, bike and walking tours. We have already experienced helicopters crashing into buildings and surrounding rivers with fatal consequences, creating daily sonic noise results. It's time to end this damage and misery. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I am Congresswoman Carolyn, and I'm going to repeat my remarks just a little bit. I'm very pleased to be joined by so many of my colleagues and many more joining with us now. We are here today to introduce a new bill, the Helicopter Safety and Noise Management Bill. Now this bill builds on work we have been doing for many, many years, trying to get this done. And the FAA, after numerous meetings and letters, have said they will go with the commission idea that will create a commission from the governor of New York, New Jersey, and the mayor of New York, community leaders such as Stop the Chop, how many times they heard a helicopter go over their home. One reported seeing them outside their window. They were afraid they'd rush in with the wind and crash in. It's out of control. The FAA says they will not go with a ban. It's hard to pass something without a federal buy-in. They said they will support this new approach. Hopefully, Congresswoman Velazquez, Nadler, and I will be able to push this over and enact it into a law, bringing some relief, quality of life, and safety here in New York. I now yield to one of the prime sponsors of the bill, Congressman Jerry Nadler.
Thank you very much. Let me start by thanking Stop the Chop and other helicopter safety advocates that are here today. Stop the Chop was immensely helpful in the drafting of this legislation. I'm also grateful they were joined by so many local officials who have stood with Chairwoman Maloney, Chairwoman Velazquez, and I on this critical issue for so many years. For decades, New Yorkers have been forced to live with the substantial safety, noise, and environmental impacts of tourism and commuter helicopters joyriding through our skies. In the past 50 years, there have been at least 30 helicopter crashes in our city, many of which have been fatal. Despite this, the FAA has done nothing to show that they understand the urgency that New Yorkers have felt. Very literally, the daily rattling of their windows of the need to adequately regulate helicopter traffic. To date, the FAA has also ignored countless urgent requests for action from the officials and the advocates here today. They have refused to implement important National Transportation Safety Board recommendations. They have failed to regulate traffic over the most densely populated city in the country. They have even failed to adequately track noise and annoyance complaints. The introduction of the Helicopter Safety and Noise Management Act, we are here to tell the FAA that enough is enough. The FAA will learn that they must take this issue seriously. New Yorkers are not going to stand for it anymore. This bill will force the FAA to work with local officials and advocates to create a long overdue plan to cut down on non-essential flights to make our city safer and greatly reduce noise pollution. In addition to this important legislation, led by Chairwoman Maloney, we are once again asking New York EDC to end its concession contracts with commuter and tourism helicopter companies at its heliports. In fact, the city's concession contract with the downtown Manhattan heliport is set to expire this year. The city can significantly reduce non-essential flights over New York City and send a clear signal to the FAA that New York City is committed to improving the quality of life for millions of New Yorkers by simply not renewing this contract. I'm also proud to announce that I will be introducing legislation this month in response to FAA inaction on National Transportation Safety Board recommendations. These recommendations can prevent accidents and save lives, only if they're implemented by the FAA. It's time for the FAA to act. Our communities have lived through the danger, noise, and pollution generated by an industry that has operated nearly unfettered for decades. I look forward to forcing the FAA to finally act by passing this legislation into law. Thank you.
Now, we'll hear from our former borough president, who has led for many years on this at the local level, and now a Councilmember Gale Brewer, and chairman of the Oversight Committee. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm Gale Brewer, City Council member, and I want to thank unbelievable support from Congress members Maloney, Nadler, and Velazquez. Unfortunately, we've been here many times trying to get this issue resolved, but this legislation is exactly what we need. I believe there were 21,000 complaints to 311 last year. That's the number of people who are complaining about helicopters. I just sent out a survey to my constituents. I got hundreds of responses from them who were complaining about the noise. So it's not an insignificant issue. We know that helicopters that live off of New York, and we know that the downtown Heliport has a lease that is coming due, and we would hope that that lease does not include non-essential helicopters. But right now, they're permitted to fly over the river, and one resident in their response said, Hudson Helicopter Highway. That's what they call it. We also get complaints from those coming from New Jersey, and that's the way that this federal legislation could help us. I can't do a darn thing about New Jersey, except I went to fly in one of those planes, helicopters, and see what it looks like. They fly over Central Park. They fly over Brooklyn Bridge Park. They fly over Governor's Island, and they fly over Brooklyn and they are certainly non-essential. We need to get rid of them. So with the amazing colleagues of the City Council, we can do resolutions on this topic, and we certainly are doing a resolution to support these amazing members of Congress and their legislation. And we also want to thank Senator Hoylman, because we want to get rid of the heliport that's on 34th Street, right in the middle of the park. So I'm here to say thank you. We've all tried everything. I mean, flying in that stupid helicopter was an experience in New Jersey. But the issue is that I, Gale, Brewer, and locally cannot do a thing about it. We have written to the governor of New Jersey. We've written to all the elected officials in New Jersey. We've had letters with the New York officials, New Jersey officials saying, please get rid of these planes. But the tourists go. I was on one with tourists. Thank you so much. Congress members Maloney, Nadler, and Velazquez, and we'll do everything we can to support you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from our outstanding borough president, Levine.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Maloney, Chairman Nadler, Chair Velazquez, and all my colleagues in government. We are here because helicopter traffic is a public health threat. It is an environmental threat. It's a public safety threat. The noise generated by these non-essential helicopters is much more than an inconvenience. It has been documented to impact the mental and physical health of the people below, of people who live in the path or near the path of these helicopters, people who are trying to enjoy a day in the park. This is not just an inconvenience. This is a health crisis. It is an environmental crisis because of the CO2 impact, the fumes that are emitted, and yes, it is a safety crisis because of the number of times, dozens, that we've had crashes here in New York City. So of course, we are calling for the city to not renew the lease at the downtown heliport. Absolutely. Thank you. That was a very good applause. Thank you very much. But we understand ultimately that we need federal action. This is an interstate problem. We need the FAA to do the right thing, and they have refused year after year after year. They have refused to act. We want to remind the FAA that their mission is to protect the public. They're not protecting the public in New York City when it comes to non-essential helicopter traffic. So I commend our three congressional leaders here today for forcing the issue with this bill that would require them finally to do the proper analysis on this problem. Thank you to our congressional leaders for doing that. I also want to thank the amazing activists at Stop the Chop. You guys are coming roaring back. Melissa and everyone, having a grassroots movement behind this is incredibly important. And finally, my message to the tourists who are coming here. You don't need a helicopter ride. Here's something radical. Walk the neighborhoods of Manhattan in New York City. It's the best way to experience our city. And if you want a view, go to the top of the Empire State Building, go to the top of the Rock, go to the Edge, go to One World Trade. That's the best way to experience the city like a New Yorker. So forget about the helicopters and experience it the way New York City is meant to be experienced. Let's finally win this. Thank you to our congressional representatives. Thank you.
Thank you. And, you'll be a lot healthier when you walk, right? Yeah, much better. I believe our last speaker is Eric Botcher, a new city council member who's part of this fight to protect people people's health.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Maloney, Councilmember Nadler, and all my colleagues. This has been a frustrating issue for a long time, and at the city level, working with Gale, Brewer, and so many others, a lot's been done on this. Arguably, we nearly exhausted all our options, but it's the federal agencies, the Federal Aviation Administration, that really needs to act, because these highly problematic helicopters are coming from New Jersey. They're coming from New Jersey, and they're hovering over our neighborhoods at a low level. So you've got a very small number of people who are getting a joyride here, but exposing millions of New Yorkers to sound. So our public policy should not benefit a small number of people while exposing millions of others to harm. So I really want to thank the incredible leadership that we have at the federal level, our members of Congress, for putting forward this bill. Now we need their colleagues in Congress, in the Senate, and at the executive level, at the Biden administration, to act to help us get a handle on this issue and bring sanity to this policy that is affecting millions of New Yorkers every day. Thanks so much for including me here today. Very important issue for our constituents. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to thank all of my colleagues in government, my partners in working on this, and Stop the Chop for keeping us on the toes and pointing out all the abuses and noise and accidents that happen in the city. And with that, we'll take any questions. Are there any questions anyone has? Yes. Would you identify who you're representing?
I'm Christy Cliche with WCBS 880. Just wondering if anybody represents the district. How often do you get calls about this, even to this day?
All the time.
All the time. And during COVID, it was even more, because people were staying home and they were captured in their homes, and they were really hearing all of this noise, and it was very upsetting. Any other questions?
All the time. Oh, got it.
And it's one of the most common complaints we hear. Really, it is a health issue. It's a quality of life issue. It's a safety issue. But we have crashes all the time, and we've lost many lives because of it.
Just one more thing. Why don't you think the FAA has done anything or said anything about it? Is there any reason?
Well, they say a lot, but it's not what we want to hear. They say that it's their job to navigate the skies and encourage more flight. They don't want to cut down on more flight. They don't want to get involved in the disputes of territory between New Jersey and New York. And many of the tourist flights and the unnecessary flights come from New Jersey. So it's it's a regional problem. But what they have said is that they would not support our bill that we've been pushing, that would just eliminate non-essential flight. They would support this commission, which is a joint effort between the mayor of New York City, the governor of New York, the governor of New Jersey, and activists like Stop the Chop and others, with 4 public hearings where we really take a look at this. They say they will try to help us now in the commission way. So we are moving forward with all the other efforts that you heard, the efforts on the city level to stop the contracts, close down the heliports, the other limited in various ways. But we have legislatively limited it on the city council, and it's been overturned in the courts. It's a federal issue of flight. Any other questions? I want to thank you for living through all this noise. It wasn't easy. We wanted to be where a heliport was. I want to thank Amy and Vice Chair for putting this together, and all of my colleagues for working on it. And Jerry and Nydia and I have had a lot of successes in Washington, and we hope this will be successful too. So thank you.